Hi everyone, Ken Stoltzfus here. I wanted to just give you kind of an overview of the last part of the class. Once we're done with the last video lecture and quiz, which is in early November, then we move into an independent study part of the class. So I kind of break this class up into a number of different components. There's sort of the 2 weeks before I was there in person where we're just getting ready for that. There's the week when I'm there in person that's kind of intensive about the clinical psychology treatment process. Then there's 5 weeks of the lectures with video lectures and readings and quizzes about different fields of practice, different specialty areas. And then finally there's this last month or so, just a little over a month, where you're kind of doing an independent project, and the project takes place in 4 parts. So here's the general idea. For the first part, you need to pick a topic, and what I would suggest for a topic is something that's related to your home country or your home area where you're from, and also related to clinical psychology in some way. Usually the best topics are some kind of a treatment issue or diagnosis and how that plays out in your country. Or it could be kind of more of a social problem that relates to treatment and what that looks like in your country. So I'll give you a couple examples. It could be something like child abuse and neglect in the former Soviet Union and what the clinical psychology field does with that. It could be something like alcohol use in Poland, if that's where you're from. It could also be something like a specific diagnosis like ADHD in Moldova, if that's where you're from. What I will say is sometimes you're not going to find a lot of articles about your home country. So then you need to broaden out a little bit by region. So if you're from one of the former Soviet countries, you could look at the whole former Soviet Union. You could look at the eastern part of Europe and Russia and just see what's been written about those topics in your area. So the first part of the project is to develop that topic, to identify that topic. And the first paper, so basically there'll be 4 small papers that are due about every week and a half to 2 weeks. And basically for that first paper, you identify your topic. Usually it's good just to run those by me. You don't have to if it's something really obvious, but if you have any questions, run that by me. I'm glad to think about it with you. And what you want to do is define your topic. If it's a DSM diagnosis, give the diagnostic criteria. If it's more of a social problem, just give a little bit of an overview about it. That first part is 2 to 3 pages, and you're just talking about, 3 to 5 pages, excuse me. You're just looking for 2 to 3 sources, and you're going to also talk about that, those sources will just sort of give you an overview of that topic. You want to just sort of summarize that. And then the last part is just explaining why you selected the topic, why it's relevant in your home country, and if you can't find an article or a resource about why it's relevant in your home country, you could interview a psychologist or other professional. I've had people do that. That usually works well as well. So 2 to 3 sources to define and describe your topic, 1 to 2 sources about the relevance in your country. So 3 to 5 sources and about 3 to 5 pages. Honestly, this one's probably going to be a little bit on the shorter side. A lot of people, it's about 3 pages. So that's the part 1. And then for the next couple weeks after that, you're working on a literature review. So I've just asked you to find 7 sources in your review. You want to summarize what the research says about your topic. Ideally, you're identifying themes. So if a theme was alcohol use rates are high in the former Soviet Union, give me some empirical research support for that. What do recent studies say about that? If there are disagreements, summarize both sides of the disagreement. And are there gaps in the field? This is the other thing you want to talk about. Sometimes people forget this, but don't forget to mention, is there something that should be researched that just hasn't been researched yet, or for which there's not enough research? So that would be a gap in the field. So that's really part 2. The second part of the assignment, 4 to 5 pages of a literature review, at least 7 sources. For some of your topics, you're going to need a little more than that to really get enough information, but at least aim for 7 sources. That's part 2. Part 3 is a case study. So from that topic you've identified and what you've read about in the literature review and what you've written about in your literature review, write a case study. So really just write a story about somebody experiencing this condition. So if we were talking about somebody with an alcohol use disorder in Poland, you would write a story about somebody, give them a name, make it fictitious, don't make this a real person, but give some information about this person, talk about what the situation looks like for them, make it specific to the country you're writing about. You don't need to cite sources throughout most of the case study, but what you should do, and where you should cite sources, is at the end of the case study, write a few paragraphs where you link what you've written to the research you reviewed in your literature review. So basically, if you're saying that, people tend to miss work because of drinking on, binges over 3 to 5 days, cite a source that says that's an issue in the part of the world that you're writing about, and that can be a source from your literature review. So that's part 3 of the case study. Part 4 also counts as your final exam. And there what you're doing is you're going to go through each step in the clinical psychology treatment process and relate it back to the case study you did. So if you identified somebody who's drinking heavily and has an alcohol use disorder, you'd go through, how do I assess that? What kind of treatment plan would I put together? And you'd actually write a treatment plan, making it measurable. What kind of interventions would I do? How would I evaluate the effectiveness of this treatment? What might a discharge plan look like? What might termination look like? So that's really the last step. That counts as your final exam because it's really where you're taking everything you've learned in the course and applying this. So just a few things to keep in mind. Each paper builds on the one before it. So the first one, you identify the topic. Second one, review the literature. Third one, case study. Fourth one, talk about the treatment for the issue you've identified. So what I'm going to try to do is I will try to get you feedback quickly so you have the feedback before you submit the next paper. So if there's something you missed in paper 1 or 2, you can fix it before you get to paper 3 and 4. So I will try my best to get you feedback as soon as I can on those. So just kind of be watching for that. I usually do that now just right on Moodle. There's a place where I can give you feedback. If you're not finding it, let me know and I can show you how to find that. The other thing I would mention is this is a good bit of work, but remember, you don't have any classes. So for a normal class, you're in class 3 hours a week. We say you should be reading or doing work about another 6 hours a week. So that's about 9 hours a week you should be spending on a class. So this takes the place of that. Rather than having you watch a lecture, do a discussion forum, you're going to be writing and researching independently. So just remember, if it feels like a lot, you're not sitting in class, you're not doing other outside of work class, you're just focused on this. Last thing I will say here is that I know that is also crunch time. The end of this semester is crunch time where you're getting your thesis proposals together. I do not mind giving you extensions. If you say, oh my gosh, my thesis proposal is due about the same time your papers due, Ken, and I'm not going to get it all done, just send me an email. We'll work out a time. Actually, in the email, just even tell me when you think you can have it to me. Like, hey, I need 3 more days. I need 5 more days. Just let me know. I'll approve that. I just need to know ahead of time so I know whether your paper's coming and if so, when it's going to get there. So I know to go in and check on it and give you feedback. Okay, that's a little bit long, but hopefully that gives you an overview of the project. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know. Just send me an email and I'm glad to talk it through with you. I can even do a Zoom or a WhatsApp meeting with you if you want to talk directly with me. But yeah, if you've got a problem, let me know and we'll figure it out. Okay, hope you're all doing well. And hope this semester ends well for all of you. Thanks. Bye.